Hi everyone, welcome back to a brand new episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. Hi Valerie, how are you doing?
I'm well. It's a great morning.
Absolutely, it's an amazing shiny morning outside. I can look at the Hudson. It's half frozen, but still it's shiny. So it's an amazing morning. Uh, Firstly, thank you for taking our time out, Valerie, to join us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm excited to talk to you today. It should be fun.
Sounds good. So, quick introduction, everyone. Who is Valerie? Valerie is the Chief Marketing Officer of First Mutual Holding Company. First Mutual Holding is a holding company of five different banks. So, everyone, it's not a traditional CMO that I'm talking to. She's someone who manages overseas marketing strategy, execution, as well as vision for five different banks. It's not a very straightforward role, so it's a pretty difficult role, right? So that's who Valerie is. Now, again, I think I already told what she does. She oversees two broad pillars. One is marketing. The new one that got added a few days back is product. She oversees marketing and product for these five banks. Marketing means strategy, execution, as well as data analytics. Right? So a lot of things. I think I messed up a bit in introduction, but Valerie, feel free to add anything in case I've missed something.
Yeah, no. Uh, Great job. So yes, I am the CMO at First Mutual Holding Company. We are a consortium of five mutual banks. And yes, my team and I do the strategy and execution for all of those banks. And as you said, at the start of this year, we launched a new product development function really focused on, first and foremost, our core banking products. And so I'm really excited to have that function report into and work with me. I think there's a lot of great synergy between marketing and product development is now reporting to me with the synergies. I think with marketing, our team, we're constantly looking at the competitive landscape, what our customers are doing, who our future customers are going to be. There's a lot of overlap there with product and thinking about, what is our offering, and does it meet the needs of our customers? And if not, what are we looking at? So I'm really excited to sort of expand my area of leadership and work with that team and really start to help and grow those skills within our banks.
You realize that's a lot of work, right? I mean, so my first question, if I would have been leading marketing for five banks, I wouldn't have slept in the night, right? I would have always been working. So what keeps you going? I mean, because it's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of work, and quite honestly, I have a really fabulous team. And I think, that's part of what keeps me going. Our team and the culture that we've built is really wonderful. And we're all very interested in supporting our banks, moving us forward, thinking about the next, thing that we can be doing. So that really gives me energy. It keeps me going. Bringing in product. It is. I mean, yeah, we're very busy people. But the fit just makes sense. I really, when I think about the role of marketing in the organization, it's really bringing the customer viewpoint into the room, and coming and thinking from that perspective. It's not just the next campaign or, this or that. It's how are we solving those needs for our customers? How are we recognizing their pain points and solving for them. And that's a lot of, the questions that you're asking as a product development person, is thinking through how do you do that. So yeah.
That's a lot of work, right? Now, really a follow-up, not a follow-up question, a brand new question again. That I know that you are someone who have had a background outside banking. Then you came into banking. So not a very, I would say, traditional banking background, right? But you bring in the experience that this ecosystem needs. I mean, it's very similar to me, right? I mean, I have worked across. Yesterday I was thinking I worked across 9 verticals: oil and gas, telecom, healthcare, literally all of them. And then I moved into banking. Very
Yeah.
similar to yours, right? So, what has been your background so far? We would love to understand more about your background and what have you done.
You know, early in my career, I started my career in sales, technology sales. I was selling straight out of college hardware and software and network systems and that sort of thing right at the dot-com boom. So that was fun, but realized very quickly that sales was not for me. Not something I was interested in. And you know, I think some of the product interest came back then, and you know, talking to other people about where could I go from
Yep.
here. And then pivoted to marketing, went back to school, got my MBA, really enjoyed the marketing classes, and ended up working in healthcare for a number of years.
Mhm.
And made the transition to banking. Gosh, it'll be 10 years this March that I've been with the bank. And yes, it was my first time in banking. I loved the idea of being at a community bank, being at a mutual bank too. There's, you know, it's really, we talk a lot about like purpose driven banking, and that's really the space that a mutual plays in to help build community. And so that really resonated with me when I was looking for what my next opportunity was. I think that's another thing that really keeps me energized too. When you ask about that, is the work that the bank does. You know, it feels very aligned to my values, and so that's yeah, a non-traditional path. I didn't come straight into banking, but I think being in another service related industry, it
Yeah.
definitely, you know, there lends itself to understanding that type of marketing.
Absolutely. I think what you covered was purpose driven marketing, because community banks are always purpose driven, and that makes you feel very special that you're doing something that has a direct impact in your local community. And that's what keeps you going apart from, your daily work, right? Absolutely. That's absolutely well taken. Now I want to talk about your journey to leadership, right? Well, you've been leading teams for years now, I'm sure, and over here also you lead a considerable team. So, what has been your journey to leadership? When did you take up a role being a leader, and how does it look like?
Sure. So yes, I have been leading teams now for a number of years, and that really grew. I think that was always where I wanted to go in my career. When I thought very early on, was do I want to go, you know, really deep functionally? I think we've talked a little bit about, you know, my passion is really on the digital side, and early in my career, that's where I gravitated. You know, building websites, the SEO, the SEM, you know, looking at data analytics, you know, and how then we can make decisions as marketers, and you know, had to think about is that the way I want to go? Do I want to go functionally deep into an area within marketing? And you know, thought to myself, I'd really prefer and I really enjoy the strategy side, the account services, you know,
Yeah.
sort of side of marketing. And so that was where I started to build and build my career, you know, build my career through that lens and through that trajectory. So coming into the bank, then I stepped into the manager role on the team, and you know, have been able to progressively be promoted up through to the CMO, which is has been great. I think as our team has grown, we've also been able to promote others within the team, you know,
Yeah,
up
absolutely.
along the path. So it's been good.
That's what you need, right? What I heard is you're more of a generalist than a specialist, because that's what is needed to reach the C level. very similar. I mean, my example was right at Accenture. I had a option that do you want to become a specialist in something or just change your clients every 2 months and work. That's what I did, and I think this has helped both of us, right? I mean, being a generalist is a huge advantage. From a different lens of okay, I'm not a specialist, but I have seen 10 different things working out, right, and 5 different things not working. So that's really helpful. Uh, Talking about leadership, right, Valeria? I mean, I'm very passionate about leadership style and philosophies because that's what I ask everyone. And for me, it's very important. I mean, if I promise something to my team, I'll do anything to make it happen. Even it doesn't happen for me, that's basic. That's basic work ethic I have, right? Otherwise, I'm very transparent. This won't happen. It won't happen. And the second for me is empathy, right? I mean, unless you have huge amount of empathy for me, I mean, I wouldn't want to work with a leader who does not have empathy. It's not transaction, right? So I want to ask you a question on your style and philosophy. So do you have any specific style or philosophy that you want to talk about that's very unique to you or that you believe very strongly in?
I think for me, um, very early in my management journey, I was introduced to the concepts of servant leadership. And those really resonated with me. Exactly what you're talking about too. Empathy, open and transparent communication, being the person for your team that can remove obstacles and help lift them up. That's really the role that I play with my team. And we come at that another really important part of how we come together as a team and how I like to lead is with a strength-based approach. I'm a huge proponent of strength finders from Gallup. And every single new person on our team gets the book, takes the test. We talk about strengths when we develop IDPs, our individual development plans. It's another important part of what we do as a team. What I do as a leader with my team is make sure that we're talking about development plans. We're thinking them through, and I'm helping my team grow. And we do that from understanding like where do they really excel,
Yeah.
and then how do we continue to build on that? I don't like to move from a deficit standpoint. I think what's the saying? Like you're going to grow faster from your strengths, from building on your strengths, than trying to fix your weaknesses. So that's really how I like to approach it, and how I've worked with my teams over the years.
Understand, absolutely. And during these years, obviously, since you've changed a lot of industries, changed roles, moved to a bank, right? Do you have any specific advice that you want to share with maybe Valerie 20 years back that you should have done something right or anything?
Yeah, I think a couple things I would have said to my younger self was get a mentor sooner in my career. More of a formal like mentor or coach earlier in my career. I think what I did a lot was I watched people who I really admired and emulated them, but never like sought out their advice and their coaching and their feedback, as I have now here, later in my career. And I think that that's really important, for anyone, as you're thinking about where do you want to go. And I think it could be across any, we were talking earlier about functionally deep or going a little broader. Keeping that in mind too, having that learning agility. This year I started a new relationship. I reached out to our accounting team and I said, hey, I'd like to have somebody on the team mentor me on our financials. Like, can I meet once a month, and like we can dive deep into the balance sheet and the income statement, and can you help me understand these decisions, that the team is making a little bit better, so that from when we walk into the room with a marketing idea or campaign or program, we're also thinking about the impact to the bank. I think that's important, you know, making those connections and those relationships. We talk a lot in marketing about, you know, we're hand in glove with compliance. And we have great relationships with them. And, you know, sometimes we'll be at our local, you know, bankers league meetings and it's always, you know, oh, compliance won't let me do this. Compliance won't let me do this. And, you know, we talk to them about like our relationship. We meet weekly. We review campaigns. We review materials. Like we've built that relationship, and I think that's really important. Is having those cross functional relationships and understanding the other areas of the bank because we all impact one another.
Yeah.
So you can't just know what you do. You have to you do have to have a working knowledge. I mean, I could
Yes.
never be a compliance officer. But I, you know, but we have the working knowledge to make sure that what we're producing and what we're suggesting and what we're recommending, you know, is compliant and we're thinking that through. So I think those are important.
Yeah, I mean that's a very valuable point that you've talked about, right? Uh, Now, if you talk about mentorship, and absolutely mentorship is much needed. I mean, uh, I would also talk about these two things, right? Wish I had a mentor, quicker in life. I mean, a right, and I mean, mentors are not right or wrong, but mentors who align to my long-term interest, right? If I would
Hmm.
have got a mentor to mentor me across those lines in the initial days, things would have been different. And second, for me, I think I stressed a lot, right? I mean, I worked 15 hours a day, like 16 hours a day. I wish I would have not worked that much. It's just not worth it. So that's what I keep on telling myself again. Uh, Now talking
I think
about
that's fair,
success.
having that balance, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
horrible in balancing. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, I have no shame in talking about it. I'm horrible in balancing. And I got a feedback a few days back that Anurag, you cannot do everything yourself. And my response was like, yes, if I cannot do those things, I cannot execute engagements, right? I'm like, you're
Hmm.
like, you have a team do it, right? You cannot do it yourself. But I have to change in that. I mean, I'm like,
Yeah.
I call myself FOMO, fear of missing out. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, unless I look at things myself, things are going, it's very difficult. It can't help, but that's okay. That's the way
It
how
that's a
we
hard
can
thing
be
though.
best.
I mean, you know, and I think especially like that's probably another piece of advice I would have given a younger version of me as a manager is, you know, that delegating and thinking, you know, about like what each of your team does, you know, that's a skill that we're constantly refining. I mean, I feel like I'm still doing that, like you said, like you just, you know, you want to be everywhere and do everything and support everyone, and you're just, and then what do you end up doing? None of it.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you cannot do everything, right? So,
No.
but that's fine. You just can't help. So let's talk about a few success stories, Valerie. Maybe talk about a couple of success stories that are really proud of in your career, be it in First Mutual Holdings or outside, whichever you feel you're really proud of.
Sure. Actually, you know, just at the end of last year, so there are five mutual banks across the country
Mhm.
have come together to form a consortium to help build the awareness of the role that mutual banks play in the overall banking ecosystem. And it's
Yep.
called Mutuals Matter. And in the fall, we actually all of our banks we just launched a campaign talking about the role that mutuals play in a community, and we've grown now the consortium. I just heard this morning that we have like 15 additional banks. So here we have 20 banks, 20 plus banks that have come together to say we want to, you know, work as allies and as partners to
Yep.
drive awareness of how a mutual bank works, what, you know, the value that it brings to the community, the reinvestment, and that, you know, and so I think that's great. You know, we hear so much about competition all the time. And here,
Yes.
I love that we are coming together, rising tides lift all boats. And when we have the same message and we're out there in markets from Cleveland to Boston to Connecticut to Virginia, and North Carolina,
Yep.
all saying the same thing. Like, it's really great. I can't wait to see how it grows. We're less than 6 months in, and I think we'll continue to work together as a team and evolve, our message and our campaigns. And I'm really excited to see how that comes together. So definitely proud to be a part of that work with our leadership team here at the bank and with our other member banks.
Understand. Understand. So, since talking about mutual banks, right, I want to talk about or ask you about one specific question about role of community banking, right? So obviously, community banks have had I mean, has a huge role on the local economy and what you're doing right now. And basically, mutual banks are nothing but uh, grouping banks together and making them successful together because those banks individually might not have that amount of resource or capacity to execute, I would say, sophisticated decisioning or strategy or have that horsepower, right? That's what mutual banks are doing, helping all of them together. So, how do you think mutual banks play a very unique role in the ecosystem? I mean, we won't talk about how mutual banks are different than a traditional community bank.
Sure. So, mutual banks, we are owned by our depositors. So we don't have shareholders. We make decisions, within our communities and for our communities. So reinvestment happens locally. I love the example of, if you're a depositor here, you can walk down the street and say, that loan, like I'm helping to fund that home, or this business, because they're a customer of ours, is helping to build the local ecosystem because we're lending locally. We're keeping the resources. Our goal is to help build and grow the communities in which we live and work and where our branches are. So that's really the difference there. And as we've been talking a lot about, we all need the banking system overall needs all different types of banks. We're not going to make a 10-20 million dollar loan to a customer, to go out and buy a new new plant, a new manufacturing plant. We need the large regional banks in
Yes.
that part of the ecosystem. We can make the 500,000, $100,000 loan to the bike shop down the street, to buy inventory for the Christmas season. Like we all need to work together to make sure that our customers across the board and our communities have the options that are right for them and that fit their needs. And I think that's really, the role when we go back to purpose driven banking, like
Yeah.
that's the role that we play in the banking ecosystem.
Makes sense. One quick question in the interest of time, both of us will drop. One last question is that, which I want to ask you, right? Since you drive a mutual bank and not again a bank, so your perspective about banking is a bit different than a traditional banker. So, why do you think uh, 2025 looks like? I mean, obviously rates are coming down, but still, it's not a very conducive environment. It's still difficult, right? So, what do you think is 2025 looking like for you, for First Mutual Holdings and for the broader ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think we're going to see what happens in the next few months. But rates seem to be staying, what last I heard, we're not going to have as many cuts this year as maybe last year. Mortgage, I think that's really going to be, it's one of our key business lines
Yes.
is mortgage, and we're going to continue to see, I think a lack of inventory across the
Yes.
board for housing, and especially affordable housing. first-time home buyers, and affordability is going to continue to be something that, as an industry and consumers in general, are going to be focused on.
Well, Valerie, this was really great, Valerie. Again, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you. No, I had fun. This was great. I appreciate taking the time and talking to you.
Absolutely, thank you.